My name is Joe Bullis. I will be your clinical coach and internship supervisor for MSA 605. Congratulations on completing all the semester and courses up to this point, and you are ready to finalize your completion of the MSA and move on towards graduation and licensure. So, congratulations on making it this far. As I said, my name is Joe Bullis, and it is my job to make sure that you finish all the requirements needed to graduate and to receive your administrator's license in regards to your time here with Gardner Webb. I will be working with you on completing your final evidence, which will be the SIAP for 605, as well as completing any final requirements that are in task stream. I will be working with Dr. Stone this semester. He and I have worked together for several years now, and I always enjoy working with Dr. Stone. Dr. Stone will be your course instructor, and I will be your clinical coach and internship supervisor. So you will be completing course assignments, case studies, and so forth with Dr. Stone. But the thing that I will focus on, the thing that I'm here to support you in, is completing the SIOP and any task stream requirements. I'll be joining you at 2 times this semester in Dr. Stone's class. I'll be joining you at the first of the semester to see if you have any questions on completing the SIOP task and the task involved in the SIOP. And then I will be coming back mid-semester to make sure that you're aware of all task stream requirements that you need to complete to graduate. So I'm making this introductory video to share with you my contact information, the process to submit documentation for me for review and grading, and also to go over the requirements of the SIOP. I'll go into more detail on task stream midway through the semester. Right now, I just want to focus on the SIOP. So at this point in time, I want to move over to an example of my course, my clinical and internship shell in Blackboard. You'll have 2 shells in Blackboard, and being 605 students, you're pretty well aware of the roles of your course instructor and the role of your clinical coach and internship supervisor. So some of what I'm saying should be something that you've heard before, not necessarily new to you, but it's always good to review it to make sure that we're all on the same page. As I said, you'll have 2 shells in Blackboard. You will have Dr. Stone's course shell and my clinical and internship shell. So this is an example of the shell that you'll be given access to as we continue and move forward through the semester. It may look a little bit different than what I'm showing you online. I haven't finalized the clinical and internship shell yet. But the resources that I'm going to go over will be the same in however this shell lands out, whatever access you're given to as far as for me as your clinical coach. Let me talk to you a little bit about my contact information and who I am. I don't think I've worked with any of you up to this point. I usually work with mostly those students who are gone or later in the MSA program. So you have had different clinical coaches, internship supervisors up to this point. I usually work with 605 students and maybe 603, 604. But anyway, the processes that you will use and what I'm getting ready to go over with you should be similar to what you've experienced in the past with your other clinical coaches and internship supervisors. It may be a little bit different. I may do things a little bit different than they do, but for the most part, it should be familiar to you. This is my 19th year as an adjunct professor for Gardner Webb. I work in the Master's of School Administration program and the Doctoral of Educational Leadership program. I've been a course instructor. I've been a clinical coach. I've been an internship supervisor, dissertation chair, dissertation committee member. So I've worked in all the graduate program education departments and have really enjoyed working with Gardner Webb over the last several years. Currently, I'm a retired public educator. I just completed 30 years with the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction as a public educator. During my tenure as a public educator, I've been an EC teacher, a coach, assistant principal, principal at all three levels, elementary, middle, and high school. For 19 years, I've served as a central office administrator. I've been director of technology, test and accountability, federal programs, ESL, EC, CTE, middle school instruction, safety, district athletic director. So I've done a lot of things at the central office level. Upon my retirement, my last assignment was executive director of federal programs and career and technical education for Wilkes County Schools. I am excited to get to know you and to work with you as you complete the MSA program. As I said, Dr. Stone and I worked together for many years and then really enjoy working with him and his students. This is the contact information that you can reach me. JMB0821 at gardner-webb.edu is my email. I check that periodically throughout the day. My goal is to respond to you, all emails within 24 hours. If you need to reach me for immediate assistance, you can do so at my cell phone number, which is 336-262-0368. However, I do screen my calls. So if you are one of my candidates and you need to get in touch with me, it's always a good idea to send a text first and identify yourself and what you need, or call me and leave a voicemail. Let me know who you are, and I will get back to you. It's always good to let me know that you need to get in touch with me first, because as I said, if you're not in my contacts list, I will not answer or respond. So if you identify yourself through text or voicemail, then I'll be sure to reach you as soon as possible. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. As soon as I get the voicemail or see the text and I'm available to do so, I'll reach back out to you. As I said, I'll be meeting with Dr. Stones in your Dr. Stones 605 course class meetings 2 times this semester, at the beginning and at the middle. However, if you need additional support, if you need a phone call, if you need individual Zoom, if the class as a whole or in a small group wants to get together with me separate from your course night to go over some things, to get some clarification, to answer some questions, be happy to do that. We can certainly schedule that. Just need to know ahead of time, and then we'll schedule a date to either talk to you, meet with you individually on Zoom, meet with you as a small group, meet with you as a class. Whatever you need for me to support you, I'm here to do so. So as I said, this shell that I'm showing you now is going to be very similar to what you'll be given access to. I will ask you to be sure that you complete any enrollment verification activity that you're required to do in both shells. You'll have to do that for Dr. Stone's core shell, but you also need to do that for my clinical internship shell. So just make sure that you complete any enrollment activities, any enrollment activity that you need to do in Dr. Stone's shell, you will need to do in mine. That way we'll be sure that you're registered, you're given credit for attending the clinical internship, and that way you'll be sure to be given credit for doing the clinical and doing this part of the program. Now, some of this is going to look a little bit different as we go through here, but as I said, relatively, it will be what you probably have been used to in the past. You will not see any links for APSL, APTL, OMA, or the SKIP. However, you will be given access to the SIAP materials. And so within SIAP, this is the process by which I use to give you feedback and collect your grade. As you have probably done in the past, you will complete a task and get feedback on that individual task before moving to the next task. Task 1, you'll submit it for review. You'll get feedback. You'll make any revisions necessary, and then you'll be asked to submit it to the assignment Dropbox. This is where we're going to do all the drafting. This is where we're going to do the SIOP is the task for review, and the review section is where we're going to make sure that that document, whatever it may be, is in great shape. It's at the level of proficient, at least into accomplishments, so level 3 to 4, and that it is ready to collect a grade. This is where we do all the work. After we do all the work and we get the document ready, and it may be ready automatically, you may submit a SIAP task for me to review. I read over it and I say, hey, this is great. I don't have any suggestions. I don't know any way you could improve it. It's perfect the way it is. Go ahead and let's collect a grade on it. And at that point in time, whether you needed to revise the document or it's in great shape from the beginning, I'll say go ahead and submit or upload to the assignment Dropbox for grading. This is where I collect your grade, and this is where you earn the points necessary to receive the passing grade that you'll get from my clinical internship shell. So we have to complete this part of the process to make sure that I collect that grade, and I have documentation that I received your task and your narrative, and this is the grade that you received or the points that you earned, and that justifies the final grade that I'll give you at the end of the semester. So whether it be task 1 or task 4 or task 6 in the SIAP, first thing we do is we put it in for review. And then after review and you get feedback, I will instruct you to upload it to the Dropbox for grading. And we will do that all the way through each SIAP task. Through task 2, submit it for review. I give you feedback. Then you submit it for grading. Task 3, review, feedback, then you submit it for grading. Task 4, review, feedback, submit it for grading in the Dropbox. Process is the same for each individual task, all the way up to and including the end of task 6. Now, we're going to talk about the individual tasks of the SIAP here in a minute. Right now, I'm just sharing with you the process by submitting documentation to me. So at the end of task 6, you will have completed all SIAP tasks. I will ask you to combine each task into one complete narrative and send it to me in the final narrative for review task. This is going to be my final opportunity to take a look at it, to see it as a complete document, to see how the task 1 transitions into task 2 and the task beyond that, how they're relative to each other and how they transition, and how check for content, check for flow of document, just to make sure it's a complete document. Everything that's required in the rubric at the level of proficiency or higher is there. Because once you leave me, so to speak, that document should be ready to receive a level 3 or a level 4. You should never have to touch it again. That's my goal. And Dr. Stone and I both have been very successful at that. And once the documents leave our eyeballs and go into tasking for a final evaluation, it is very rare that anybody has to revise anything. And when I say very rare, I mean very, very, very rare. So anyway, I will ask you, once you complete all the task at the end of task 6, collecting the grade, I'll say, send it to me as a final narrative. I'll review it as a final narrative, take a great look at it, make any necessary suggestions for improvement. I doubt there will be at that time, but just another opportunity for me to look at it as a complete document and make sure we're in good shape. And then I will say, submit it to the final narrative assignment Dropbox for grading. And that's when I collect a grade on it. And I do. I look over it one more time. This time I'm usually looking at the way the paper is structured, the narrative, the references, the artifacts, make sure everything is connected there, and subheadings and some of the structure of the paper. Make sure it's in good shape. And then I will tell you, excellent. You may submit to Turnitin and task stream. So at the end of the final evidence assignment Dropbox, that's all tasks of the SIAP, I will tell you, if you are to that point, if it's a level 3 to level 4, which it very well should be, I will say ready to submit or upload to Turnitin and task stream. So then you would take your final evidence narrative and you would upload it to Turnitin. I'll review that and give grade on that. And then when I say it's ready for task stream, that's when you submit it to Dr. Stone to look at. Dr. Stone is the gatekeeper of task stream. So it doesn't get submitted to task stream until he has a chance to review everything one last time. And he'll explain this to you when we meet, and probably even throughout the course about that is when I say ready for task stream. I mean, in my opinion, from what I look like in my experience, it's ready to go. But Dr. Stone needs to look at it one last time before you actually submit it to task stream for evaluation. And you would submit it to the direct response folio and task stream for final evaluation. So that's basically the process. And like I said, I hope this is familiar to you, being a 605 student. As first, I need to see it in review, and then I will let you know when we can collect a grade on it in Dropbox. If you have any questions about that, hopefully I'll get this video out to you before we meet with Dr. Stone for the first time, and you've had a chance to review it. If not, and we've already met, you've probably heard me say a lot of what I'm already said and what I'm getting ready to say. I'll reference this video in our meeting, and then I'll send it out to you shortly. It's good to keep this on hand and review it as you need to as we go through this semester. So that's the process. That's my contact information and the process of submitting the task to me in the clinical internship shell. You will also notice under here that you'll be given access to SIAP tasks and prompts and final evidence template with directions. We're going to go over both of those documents, and I've got them in a separate place on my computer, and I'll pull them from there. But this is going to talk about how to complete each evidence of the SIAP, how to complete each task of the SIAP evidence, and also a template that you can use to help structure your narrative and finish completing. The SIAP is a little unique. And one aspect of SIAP is a complete new evidence that you will generate based on where you're at right now in your school. But then on the other hand, it also may and should contain data, decisions, conversations, plans that were made all the way back from evidence one, the APSL, up to the CAP. So as a good administrator, and you'll probably hear me say this before again, as a good administrator, you're going to use past data and past experience to have a positive impact on your present situation in your present school. So you're going to use information from the APSL. You're going to use information from the APL, the OMA, and the SCIP to generate the SIAP. But everything you do has to be contained within the present time window this semester, and also has to be relevant and within the context of the SIAP. If you use Apple data and it's a figure from, if it's APSL figure 1 data, when you use it this semester, that APSL figure 1 is now going to be SIAP figure whatever, whenever you put it within the document. If you met with the SCIP team, and you pull some information and data that has been analyzed by the SCIP team, they are now the SIAP team. It is now the SIAP plan. It is now the SIAP narrative, the SIAP chart. So everything that you use and pull from the past, you now put it within context of the present. And I hope I'm pretty clear on that. So let's look at that. Let's look as we go through some of the requirements of the SIAP and the individual tasks. Now, everything you're going to be looking at is pulled from the scale handbook. So the tasks and the prompts is being pulled from the scale handbook. This is a great document. If you want to pull up the SIAP and read everything that's in the scale handbook about it, it's going to be repetitive when you look at some of the other resources that are available to you, but it's good information, and it'll really help you finish up the program and make sure that you've got everything you need to satisfy that evidence requirement. So what I'm going to do is I've got all that separated out here. Excuse me. All right, so let's look at the SIAP task and prompt. Now, like I said, this will look familiar to you being in the program for a while. You got your name of the evidence. You've got your general description, MELS. Of course, this may be a little bit dated as we've gone over to MSA as far as the acronyms we use in the program. But the purpose of the SIAP and the individual task. The SIAP has 6 tasks. And what these 6 tasks do is they give you the opportunity to develop a school improvement action plan, not just an academic performance action plan or a teacher empowerment action plan or a cultural action plan to improve the culture. This is it is the culminating activity of total school improvement. All of those individual cadres, if you will, that you've dealt with in the past: academic improvement, teacher efficacy, organizational management. All of those are going to be touched in this plan. So this is a total school improvement plan that deals with all of that, not just student improvement, not just teacher performance, but not just cultural impact, not just how you work within the internal and external stakeholders, all of it encompassed together school improvement plan. So task one is going to just be on school data. That's where you pull data from the past. That's where you pull EVOS data, student performance data, academic performance data. You can pull discipline reports, attendance reports, any data, any. And I'm going to say quantitative because that's true for the most part. There might be some qualitative that you've used in the past that you can pull from, but just for the most part, just think of numbers, things that you can pull off the school report card. That's going to be, what does the data of the school tell you? Now, you're going to develop a SIAP team. You're going to pull all this data together, and you're going to have a conversation with your SIAP team on the relevance of this data, and you're going to analyze this data. Now, once again, anytime you're dealing with a team, the whole purpose of that is you show your leadership competencies. How do you facilitate the team? How do you lead the team towards conclusion? How do you work with the team and lead them through a conversation? How, if somebody disagrees on something, how do you resolve that conflict? That's all about you showing leadership. How do you facilitate and lead that team in each of these tasks, not just task one, but in each of these tasks. Task one is dealing specifically with school data. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Task two is going to be talking about the teacher working condition survey, or a survey that's comparable to that. If you don't live in North Carolina, you don't have the North Carolina teacher working condition survey, then a survey that's comparable to that and where you're working. If you're at a charter school, then your charter school should be developing some type of survey that judges teacher impairment, teacher efficacy, and the conditions by which they work under. And that's all this is. And the task two is all about analyzing that several tenets within that teacher working conditions survey. And we'll talk about that. And then reflecting on the usefulness of that presentation or that analysis that you've done. So task three is a focus group project. So task three is about assembling a group of internal and external stakeholders and sharing with them what you found in task one and task two. So, and then this is where the qualitative aspect of your data analysis comes in. It's what people are seeing and what people are saying reflected in the hard numbers that you've looked at before. Teacher working condition survey. Are the teachers in conversation, in focus group discussions, or what they're saying correlating to what you're seeing in the teacher working conditions survey, or are they surveying one way and talking another way? And that's what you're doing. It's just a part of triangulating the data. You take a look at this data that you discovered and analyzed in task one, and you take the information that you gathered in task two, and you triangulate that with a focus group on are people's perception meshing up with what the data says. So it's triangulating that data, as I said. Task four is developing a plan, developing a SIAP plan, pulling all that information and data together to have an impact, short-term, long-term objectives, to have a positive impact in a total-wide school improvement plan. Well, what resources if you develop that action plan, and action plan is what are you going to do, when you're going to do it, who's going to be responsible for doing it, how are you going to fund it, whether it's human capital or physical capital, how are you going to evaluate what you did, and what's the time window to make all this happen. So that's the plan that you're going to be coming up with. But the main part of any plan is, what resources do you have on time? And we're talking about task 4. What resources do you have on hand, excuse me, what resources do you have on hand, physical and human, and how are you going to allocate those to the SIAP? Task 5 is your graphic organizer. This is a graphic organizer of your plan, whether it be a PERT chart or an action plan. Doesn't matter whichever one it is, whatever's easiest for you. It can be a series of action plans. It could be one action plan that just talks about what you discovered in task 1. It could be one action plan that just talks about what you discovered in task 2. But it is a graphic organizer of your plan and how it is related to the SIOP in whole, and what you have found out from all your interactions with stakeholders and team members. And task 6 is a competency reflection on all 21 competency. So you reflect on all 21 competencies from communication down to, I think it's visionary. You respond to or reflect on each competency, and you reflect on the whole program. What have you learned, and how have you grown as a leader by interacting with your internship super hours, by interacting with your the time and the activities that you engaged in each of the evidences. So you talk about it as a whole overall. How have you grown and changed as a leader for your 21 and within the 21 competencies? That's what task 6 is. So that is a rundown of the SIOP and the overview. Now, each individual task, if you go through here, each individual task is presented with additional and more specific information, and also the prompt, which will give you a good, as you know, gives you a good indicator of how you need to write up that particular task. And that goes all the way through task 6. And then at the end of this document, you will see the rubric. And that's what I use and what the evaluator used to make sure that you've got every aspect needed and every requirement met of that task. And I look at the column of proficient. If you want to go to level 4, then make sure that you read this comment and include those things that are identified for level 4, level 4 award. So it gives you another description, gives you some more information, and each one may be a little bit different. I always recommend my candidates to read out both of them. Read up top where you got the description, your prompts up top. Read the rubric to make sure that you notice anything that may be a little bit different. But this is what you need to have in task 1. This is how you need to make sure that you're covered. This gives you information here, and this is what will be looked at for a point award in each of these tasks. And make sure you're very well aware of the rubric and what the requirements are that's stated in the rubric. If you have any questions on that, just let me know, and I'll be happy to provide any clarification of what's needed. So that's the document that's available to you in your course shell and your internship shell. Another resource available to you is a final evidence template. And I'm going to spend a little more time talking to you about looking and pulling information from past evidences to be used in this current evidence. And your current evidence is evidence number 6, the last one, hurrah and yay, exclamation mark. And that is the school improvement action plan. So this is just a template for you to use. I want to say before we get into it, anything that's highlighted in yellow, anything that's written in any other color other than black font, you will need to remove before your final submission. And you'll see what I'm talking about here in a second. This is a template with some guidelines that was developed by one of the course instructors in the past, and we share this with all the candidates, kind of help them realize the uniqueness of the SIAP. That's probably about the only resources that you'll get. If you need some additional help, I can provide some additional resources. Just reach out to me individually. Let me know what your problem that you have or what you're dealing with, and I will pull the appropriate resource that may be needed to address that. But as you may have already been told, Gardner-Webb, the MSA program, formerly the MELS program, goes through the gradual release of responsibility model, to where at the very beginning you get a lot of resources, a lot of hands-on, and discovering what the process is, discovering how to write the narrative, knowing what APA is, and how to take the APA requirements and mesh them into your narrative. You receive a lot of information, a lot of help. You meet with your clinical coach, you meet with your internship, your course instructor several times, and you get a lot of help, a lot of hands-on, a lot of personal attention, so to speak, or personal support. As you go from 605 to from 601 to 605 and the gradual release of responsibility model, that support does not continue at the same intensity level that it did at 601. With the theory is that you are becoming more self-reliant and more sustainable and producing quality work on your own, because you've got all that support at the beginning and all those interventions at the beginning, and it's grown you into a successful leader at 605. So that's why you don't get as much 605 support as you did 601 support. I've heard professors call it not gradual release of responsibility, but intentional abandonment, which I kind of think that's humorous, and I like that. But anyway, you're not going to get as much resources up front as you have in the past. However, if you need more, that's what I'm here for, and I can help you with that. So task one. So it gives you some highlight indications here and some red font. The red font is giving you hints of past evidences that would satisfy the current requirement of this SIAP Task 1. So SIAP Task 1 for background information description of the setting, you can pull from your SIP Task 1, Prompt 1. And what's identified here in the prompt, you can pull this information from APSL Task 3, OMA Task 1 and 2, and CAP Task 1 and 2. So this is giving you information that you've already done. You don't have to recreate anything necessarily to write the current evidence. You can use what's done in the past. Remember, I told you, a great administrator will use past data to have a positive impact on present conditions. And that's kind of what we're teaching you, is pulling in all the data available to you, and how are you going to use that for a total school improvement plan. So now that doesn't mean the SIAP, and please hear me when I say this, the SIAP is not a copy and paste document. The SIAP is not a copy and paste document. Yes, you can use the data that you collected in the past, but that doesn't mean the narrative that you wrote for APSL Task 1 is going to be applicable to what's required in SIAP Task 1. Perfect example. An APSL task, at the very beginning of the APSL, you have to do research on the PLC, and then you have to do an annotated bibliography. SIAP Task 1 rubric doesn't call for either one of those. So if you put that in SIAP Task 1, I'm going to tell you that it's not relevant, it doesn't apply, and you need to remove it. So be sure that you don't just copy and paste. You pull everything out of those past evidences that are relative to the SIAP Task 1. And that comes from looking at your description, looking at your prompt, and specifically looking at your rubric. Please bear in mind, and this is important, the SIAP, there is a 70 to 120 page recommendation by the evaluator, by the estate evaluator. So there is a recommendation on the number of pages of the SIAP from 70 to 120 by the state evaluator. If you just start copying and pasting everything that's listed here in red font, you're going to be way over that, and it's going to contain a lot of fluff and even repetitive data that doesn't need to be in there. So please keep in mind that it is not a copy and paste document, but you can go in and pull information out of past evidences to use in the current SIAP task. Just make sure that it's all within the context of the SIAP. Once again, it is no longer a chart from the APSL. It is no longer a chart from the CAP. It is now a SIAP. chart. It is now a SIAP figure. They are now the SIAP team. It's all within the context of the SIAP. But this document does give you some good tips on where to go in the past to satisfy the current prompt. And as I said, those will be in red font, and usually where you'll find that is after a highlight. That's where you'll find that information. But remember, you'll need to remove all highlights and remove all red font as you progress through. And that is all the way through the SIAP. It even gives you an example of a graphic organizer or a PERT chart. You know, you can use either or. You don't have to use both. Some have used both, and that's fine. If you want to do a PERT chart and a graphic organizer example, please do so. It's not a problem. So once again, this is what I'm saying here. These are examples pulled from the past, but this would not be an ABSL graphic organizer. It would now be the SIAP. This would now be, it wouldn't be an APTL growth plan PERT chart. It would now be a SIAP growth plan PERT chart. So just make sure that you make that transition and change that, because once again, the SIAP is not a copy and paste document. The SIAP is not a copy and paste document. And I'll read through it. And if I put something in there that I think distracts from your narrative, distracts from what the rubric is requiring, then I will certainly let you know. And that's a common mistake. I has been in the past, the candidates who just go through and copy and paste, and then I have to go through and they have to rewrite and revise and clean it up and pull things out and change the narrative. If you say in your narrative the CAP team got together and discovered or decided blah, 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 then I'm going to say, why is the CAP team doing this? It should be the SIAP team. So I hope I've made my point clear. If you have any questions on the uniqueness of the SIAP and how to use information from past evidences to write the SIAP, if you have any questions or need clarification on that, let me know. As I said, I hope that you'll have an opportunity to view this video before we meet. So hopefully this will firm up some questions that you may have or provide some clarification that you need. So that is the information on completing the SIAP. And that is basically the resources that you'll be given in the core shell will be the task and prompts and the evidence template. So I hope you found this video helpful in discussing the requirements from this semester in regards to the SIAP evidence, but also how to submit information to me for revision, for possible revision, and for getting the points that you will need to get a grade from your internship and clinicals. I will be meeting with you 2 times and be happy to answer any questions. As always, you are more than welcome to reach out to me for any clarification, for any individual Zoom, for any small group Zoom. I'm here to help you. My job with Gardner-Webb University is make sure that you have everything you need to graduate and be licensed as a school administrator. Take care of yourself. I hope and pray you and your families are safe and healthy, and I look forward to seeing you in person. Thank you.